Hey ladies, it's me Sandra, TTC 45, and I am just coming to you. As you can see by the title, I really just need to vent a little. It just seems like as much as I love my beautiful princesses, and I would not trade having them or going through everything that I've gone through to get them for anything. But I think I hit them just at the wrong time of society. I hit them right after the pandemic, and when I thought things were getting better, I ended up getting hit with a formula shortage. Now, I did breastfeed the girls. I breastfed them all the way up until they were 8 months, I believe, or 7 months. I'm not sure. I think it was 7 months, 7 or 8 months. I breastfed from December 21st when they was born up until August of 2022. So, and I think it was probably around May of 2022 when the formula shortage had started. But at the time, they were thinking that it was going to be a temporary thing that was probably only going to last until July, August at the most. So stop breastfeeding around August was probably a perfect time for me, because I had already knew I was going back to work in September, which means that I will have to pump more than I will be breastfeeding. And me and pumping just don't get along. I mean, I'm just here to say it because it is so draining. And when you're trying to pump enough to feed 2 babies, it's just overwhelming. I did do some pumping so that I can continue to give them breast milk past the time that I stopped breastfeeding, but I didn't have nowhere near as much as I had after I had Pebbles. I stopped breastfeeding Pebbles at 6 months, and Pebbles had enough frozen milk to last her through 9 months. I had a freezer full of milk, but that just was not the case with the twins. They pretty much exclusively breastfed for the first 3 months, but because they were so small, the pediatrician wanted them to have formula because it gives them more calories. She didn't want me to stop breastfeeding. She just wanted me to, substitute or even mix the breast milk with the formula, which was one of the things that I was doing. But it took me about 3 months to do that, because once I started breastfeeding them, they only wanted the boob. They didn't want no bottle. I mean, I had tried every bottle, every type of nipple, every type of whatever to get them to take the bottle, and it just wasn't working. I forgot what I did that finally worked, but I will give the credit to my sis, Tamika TTC, because she was helping me, with the conversion, trying to get them to take the bottle. And it was one of her suggestions that she had given me that actually worked. And then I was finally able to give them the bottle because I needed to. It was real difficult at times to feed them at the same time. So if I was nursing one, I can get one of my sons to bottle feed the other one. So, as I started to wean them, getting them prepared to, come up off the boob altogether, because I knew I was going back to work, that's when we got hit with the formula shortage. And I'm going to tell you, that was like the worstest thing ever, because I couldn't find formula nowhere. I mean, I was traveling from store to store, from miles away. And even when we went on vacation in Florida, I was riding all around Florida trying to find formula. Nobody had no formula. It was just a shortage all the way across the board. I knew that it was probably not going to end for me if the shortage was not going to let up, because it never did let up. And the reason being is because my babies, they were still underweight, and I knew that my pediatrician was not going to take them off of formula even when they turned 12 months. She didn't even take Pebbles off of formula when Pebbles turned 12 months. Pebbles was small for her age as well. She wasn't as small as them, but she was definitely small for her age. And she took Pebbles off of formula at 15 months, I'm sorry. And then she switched Pebbles over to toddler formula. Now the twins, they had to keep having formula up until they was 18 months, and she switched them over to Pediasure. So they didn't go to the toddler formula, but they are on Pediasure until, I guess, whenever. Right now they're 20 months old, so I'm not sure how much longer she's gonna have them on there. But you know, if it's going to give them that extra calorie that they need to help them grow, that's fine. She's not really worried about their weight because they are growing. It's just at a slowly pace, and they're on target for everything that they need to be when it comes to their motor skills and any other targets that they need to meet for their age. So there's no concern there at all. But yeah, I am really glad that they have finally got taken off of formula, because now I don't have to worry about riding around town trying to find formula. And even when you do find it, they always give you a limit. You can only have 3 or 4 or 5 per family. It was just too stressful. So I thought finally I done got a break. You know, life can go back to some type of normalcy. That was short-lived. So back in July, this is August now, but back in July, my child care provider son was shot. He did survive the gunshot wound, but you know, it was a traumatic event as well as a severe shot wound that almost cost him his life. As a result, she did not keep the kids for like 3 weeks because she was running back and forth to the hospital to be with him, which was very much understandable. And she finally opened up her daycare back like the last week of July. And after about a week of opening up her daycare, she came to all of us to let us know she was shutting the daycare down for good. That was just so totally heartbreaking on so many levels. Like, one, it's really difficult to get my kids to get used to somebody. They a little bit growing out of the stranger side, but they're still stranger side. And so it really hardens me when I have to leave them somewhere that they're not familiar with, and then they get to crying and stuff. It just really, it breaks me down. I'm not even going to deny it. It really breaks me down. So when she said that she was closing up the daycare, I'm like, oh my God. So here I go again, because this will actually be the 3rd daycare center for Pebbles, but the 1st daycare center for the twins. You remember with Pebbles, she had a daycare provider, which was a lady that I knew. She was actually a friend of mine's mom who was licensed to be a child care provider. But when the pandemic hit, you know, by her being an older person that she was, and then she had to take care of her mom, who was also an older person, so she just wasn't comfortable having kids in and out, you know, during the pandemic, because of course at the time nobody knew anything about this disease or how it affects anybody. So she shut her daycare center down. She actually just opened it back up this year, but she shut her daycare center down. And I had to find something for Pebbles, which was very difficult at the time, because during the pandemic, a lot of the daycare centers was not allowed to have but so many children. That was a state law that they couldn't care for no more than like 4 or 5 kids, so they had to let a lot of kids go. And so we had a really, really big shortage in daycares. and one of my co-workers called her daycare provider and asked her if I was able to bring Pebbles over. And even though she wasn't a licensed provider, you know, the fact that she was willing to keep her for me until I was able to find something more permanent, that was a blessing for me. And then, you know, I finally found somebody in December of that year, and then starting January, that's when Pebbles started going to the provider she's at now. And then the girls joined when I went back to work when they was 9 months. So the girls don't know anybody else but her, besides, you know, my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law is the one who will usually keep them if I'm going out of town or if I'm just trying to do something without kids and stuff. But other than that, I don't really let nobody keep them because they are stranger shy. So I'm thinking that, okay, we are post-pandemic, everything should be back to normal, you know, even though I'm a little saddened at the fact that she's shutting the daycare center down. You know, I'm just gonna go, this would probably, you know, be what I needed to go and find something that was more close anyway, because I have to drive every day back and forth over to the next city to drop them off, and then I have to come back to my house to work because I work from home most of the time. But there are times we have to rotate in and out the office, and I'm actually going in the office on rotation from the 16th through the 31st. So those are the times where I really need child care, because nobody's at home during the day like it used to be. You know, I always used to have my son as a backup plan if there was any issue where the child care provider is not able to keep the kids for whatever reason, or the fact that I'm working from home, they just stay at home while I work. But now that my son has decided that he wanted to start going to work, there's nobody at home. So this is the time that I have to have a child care provider. And I had contacted the state child care assistants. They usually send you a list of all the child care providers that's in your area that has, you know, that's been licensed to provide child care. And before I even called any of those numbers on that list, I started calling all the daycare centers in the area from here to the city over, the next city over, which is where I work at. And as much as I do not want to put my kids in a daycare center, you know, one of the advantages of sending your kids to daycare homes is the fact that it's less children there. And less children mean less chances of your child coming home with some type of sickness or what have you, because when they go to daycare centers, there's so many different viruses kids carry, and, you know, they just always sick. Something that's always going wrong because there's so many children there. But, you know, since the pandemic, it seemed like they've gotten a little stricter when it comes to sickness. Before, you could just send your child to the daycare even if they had a runny nose or coughing or sneezing or whatever, as long as they didn't have a fever. If they had a fever, you couldn't send your child to the daycare. They'd have you to come right back and pick them up, and you wouldn't be able to bring them back for 48 hours. But now, because of the pandemic, if they have a cough or a runny nose or whatever, they don't allow you to send your child to the daycare. So that may be a plus, you know, to kind of cut down on a sickness that is so easily passed around to kids in a daycare center. But at the same token, daycare homes, they are, you know, pretty much I don't want to say self-employed, but they own their own business. I mean, basically self-employed. What this means is that they can make their own schedule. They can make their own schedule. They can take off when they want to. They can close early when they want to. They can open late when they want to. I mean, this is the downside of the daycare center homes, is that, you know, they don't work around your schedule. You have to work around their schedule. And it's really, really inconveniencing. You know, I've just dealt with too much of inconvenience with the daycare homes. I love them, but I just dealt with too much inconvenience when it comes to them, because they're gonna take off when they need to take off. It ain't no if and buts about it. Doesn't matter that you have to go to work the next day and you don't have nobody to keep your child. You know, so I just don't want to deal with that no more. I love this provider that I have currently, because not only was she a good provider, but you know, if I needed to pick them up late because I wanted to stop at the grocery store or I had a doctor's appointment or whatever, she never had an issue with it, and she did not charge me any late fees. You know, sometimes she have kept the kids for me off schedule, like, you know, not doing work hours, maybe on a weekend or something like that, if I had something that I wanted to do or needed to do. And one time she took it upon herself to keep all her child care children for a couple of days to get the parents a break. So that's the type of provider she is, and you know, that's one of the downsides to losing her. But again, this could be a blessing in disguise, because you know, maybe I need to start rethinking the daycare centers, because at least with the daycare centers, you're guaranteed to have a provider, unless for whatever reason they get shut down because of an emergency or what have you. But you don't have to worry about them closing for personal issues. Holidays, of course, you know that. And I'm just so over it now, you know. So, I have called all the daycare centers in the area, and not a one had an availability. I mean, they were all booked. Every last one of them had a waiting list, and their waiting list was from 30 kids to 100 kids. So I'm not even sure if any of my kids would get in a daycare center between now and next year. So then I started going down the list of the daycare homes. Now before, when they sent me a list, it was about 5 pages long, full pages. This list was 2 pages, and 1 page with 2 names on there. That's how bad the shortage of child care providers are in this area. And the first page I went through in one day, and all of them were booked. Every last one of them was booked. The second page that I got through, some of them had not responded to me yet, which I'm taking it maybe they don't have opening, because if they did, they would have responded to me by now. Some of them, you know, flat out told me they didn't have any openings. Some of them did say they had openings, but not enough for 3 kids. So I had to start rethinking, you know, should I split them up? Should I put Pebbles in one care and put the babies in another care? You know, it would be nice if one of the daycare centers would call me and say, hey, we got to your name on the waiting list for your 4-year-old, because most daycare centers for 3 and 4-year-olds, they actually don't consider it daycare. They actually consider it preschool. So that will be wonderful for her. I mean, she can go back to the preschool she was at last year. The only problem with going back to the preschool she was at last year is that preschool was not all day. It was only half a day, and it's only 3 days a week. And because my son was not working and wasn't doing anything, it was easy for him to take her there and bring her back. But now that he's working, I don't even have nobody to take her and bring her back anyway, because the hours does not coincide with my work hours. So unless it's an all-day, full-time preschool, she won't be able to do those part-time preschools. So, but yeah, that's how bad it is, you know. So, one of the ladies told me, okay, well, you know, I have space for maybe the 2 toddlers, but not the 4-year-old. I'm like, okay, fine. You know, I'll go ahead and, you know, try that. You know, I just have to try to see if I can get her in a preschool, or I can send her back to her very first daycare provider, because she did tell me that, you know, she just reopened up her daycare this year, but that she would only have space for one. She couldn't keep all of them because she's working by herself and she doesn't have any help. So, you know, and then when I found out the address to this new provider, they literally right down the street from each other. So that would have been even perfect. So I went to visit with her yesterday. She's a Hispanic woman, but she was very super nice. I met two of her daughters. One is a teenager, the other was an adult. I think that was her husband I met, and they all seemed super nice. And, you know, unfortunately, where I live at is predominantly Hispanic. So you will probably end up with an Hispanic daycare provider if you want to find a daycare within that city limit. And that's fine with me. I don't have no judgment of person's race or whatever, as long as they're going to be good to my kids. And I was surprised how both the twins, you know, took to her so easily when we walked through the door. You know, they didn't cry, and you know, they act like they had been there before they started walking around, you know, kind of getting a feel of the place. I had Pebbles with me, and you know, we talked about the hours and talked about, you know, how she got in the business, where she'll be keeping them, you know, what kind of food she will be feeding them. We talked about a lot of stuff, and I really felt comfortable when I, you know, left there. I really think that I want to use her, especially after she did get to meet Pebbles and told me that she could squeeze Pebbles in. Now, prior, she told me, okay, I don't have room but for the two toddlers. So she was like, you know, if you want to bring the toddlers, I can take them. But once she got to know Pebbles, she's like, oh, I can squeeze her in. And I said, oh, that was so wonderful, because then I don't have to go to two different places every morning before I work. So I am still going to try to find 4-day preschool for Pebbles, because that's what I want. I want Pebbles somewhere where she's actually learning, because she is very smart and intelligent. But at this point, you know, I have to take what I can get, because I had no clue that there was a shortage in childcare. I even started Googling it and found out that there was a shortage everywhere. It was not just Illinois. It was in every other state, and they was asking these politicians, what are you guys doing about the shortage in childcare? You know, are you trying to increase the payment that they're getting? That they did increase their payment during the pandemic, but I don't know what happened since then. But that is the biggest issue with the child care now, is the lack of teachers. We have a lack of teachers and providers who want to provide, as well as teachers for the school. You know, the pandemic really broke everybody down to a point where they had to start reevaluating things in their life and determine, you know, is this what I want to do? Should I go back to school and do something else? I just need to make sure that I have some type of security in case we go through another pandemic. So that is definitely understandable. But I had no clue that there was a child care, and I was really panicking. Like, because my provider did not give me enough notice to look for a provider. And I'm thinking, okay, sure, there's plenty of providers. I just, you know, just got to choose one. And I've been wanting one, you know, near me where I didn't have to go over to the next city for a long time. At one point, she told me that she was willing to move to my city because they wanted to buy a house over there. I said, oh my God, that will be excellent if you can do that, because then I ain't got to worry about getting up so early. But I have to get up at 5-something in the morning every morning in order to get these girls ready and get them over to their daycare and be back at home by 7:30 to clock in. Now, it's not so bad when I'm going into the office, because she's right down the street from my office. But when I have to work from home, yes, it's bad. So, but, you know, I'm definitely going to miss going to her. I'm sure the kids are going to miss going to her. I understand her reasoning for closing up the daycare. I mean, I don't exactly agree with the short notice, especially knowing that there was a child care shortage, because apparently she knew there was a child care shortage. And to me, if you know there's a child care shortage, you should want to give your parents more advanced notice, allowing them time to find somebody. And that's not what she did. So I'm a little bit bummed about that, but what can I say? That's either here or there. There's not really much I can do. At this point, I have not, nipped it in the bud that I'm going to actually use the provider that I visited with yesterday. I have another one that I'm going to be visiting with today. And right now I'm picking up the kids from their current daycare. And we're going to go by the other ladies and visit her and see. And then we'll make our decision between the two, because at this point, beggars can't be choosy. When I went through that whole first page and saw that every last one of them child care providers did not have any space, I'm like, okay, I can't just skip over like I did, the first time. The first time I was being specific, I was looking for a specific type of provider, and this, then, oh, no, I can't do all of that. No. Not if I want to keep my job, because at this point, my job is not offering no type of child care incentives if you're struggling. I mean, they did at one point during the pandemic. If the child care centers closed down or the daycare providers closed down due to COVID, you can take up to 3 months off. They don't got that no more. Everything is back to normal now. So I'm going to pick them up. We're going to go by this new provider, and then I'm going to come back and let you guys know what I think about this new provider and see, which one I think I'm going to go with. Until then, I'll be back, ladies. All right, guys, I'm back. I just left the second provider's home, and I actually came and dropped the kids off at home because I need to run to the grocery store, and it's real difficult for me to go to the grocery store with all three of them by myself, because I can't push 2 carts. And only the larger stores like Costco and Sam's Club have the double-seated strollers for parents who have multiple kids, but Walmart unfortunately does not, and it's really hard for me to maneuver with all 3 of them. So I had to bring them home so I can run back up there. But before I do go to Walmart, I do gotta stop at the gas station, because I didn't know how low I was on gas. But anyway, guys, I'm not even gonna lie. I really loved this provider. I thought I liked the one that I saw yesterday. This one today really blew me. And, not that it matters, because I'm not racist by no means, nothing. But it really surprised me that she was a black woman, because it's really, really, rarely would you find a black provider here in the city that I live in. Now, in the next city over, Rockford, yeah, there's plenty of black providers over there. But in this city, no, you rarely find them, I didn't just like her because she was black. First of all, she had a beautiful home. I tried to get as much footage of the home or the play area, because definitely not the actual home, but the play area, as I could without, her noticing that I was videoing. But again, my kids took, I won't say they took to her like they did the lady yesterday, but they felt comfortable in there. Once they got up in there, they went straight to, playing with all the little toys. I just like how she has everything so set up. The other lady, she didn't really give me a tour of all of her home. She just gave me a tour of the area that she was going to be watching the kids at, as well as the backyard. But this lady, she has multiple areas in her home. She has the play area. She has the learning area, so they do teach the kids, which is something that I like, because if I'm not able to get Pebbles into a preschool, at least I'm comfortable knowing that she's going to be learning something at their daycare. They have their own app, so you can always stay connected with them through the app. What else they have? It was so much that she was showing me. I was like I was like blown away, because she had almost everything you would pretty much see in a daycare center, but in a daycare home. Like, she had this room where the kids sleep in, and she got these dividers so that they can't even disturb each other. Like, I just really love how she has that set up. She has a beautiful big backyard, beautiful play area for the kids. And I mean, I just loved it. I immediately fell in love, especially with the fact that she's willing to teach and learn. She said all of her preschool 3-year-olds, they know how to write their name. Oh, she also has a potty training area. She was like, she usually start potty training kids before we do. I'm not in a rush to potty train. The reason being is because the twins is a little bit smaller than she was. So I'm going to give them a little bit more time. But if she wants to start, hey, I am not going to stop her. The only downside to her is that she, her daycare is only open till 5. I made it clear to her, I don't get off of work till 5. I said, so I don't know, you know, how that's going to work out. I said, you know, if I'm working from home, I can be over here and get them, you know, picked up by no later than 5:20, you know, 5:30. Sometimes I have to work a little bit past 5 o'clock, but it's never 10 minutes past 5 o'clock unless I'm working overtime, and I don't do evening overtime work. So then I also explained that, you know, when I have to go in the office, it's in the next city over, so it's going to take even longer to get back. Her only concern is that when September get here, she will be going to school, and her classes are online, and her classes start at exactly 5:30 prompt. So, you know, as long as I can get there, have them picked up by 5:30, then it's okay. I can always send my son as long as he keep the same schedule he has. I don't know if his schedule would ever change, but for now, you know, I can use him. So I'm excited, you know. I am going to go by there tomorrow on my lunch when the kids are already at the other daycare, and fill out the paperwork and things. There's, you know, when you go to these daycare centers now, there's so many paperwork you have to fill out, you know. Make sure you have their physicals and birth certificates and all of that stuff. So I'm going to get that, and hopefully they'll be starting the date that I'm due to go into the office, which is going to be on the 16th. And I just hope things work out. Come on, baby. All right, guys. So I'm going to check out this new daycare center. I didn't video. Come on, baby. The one I went to yesterday. But I'm going to video this one if I can. Nice, big, beautiful home. All the homes in this town is nice. This is a suburban area. Come on, baby. Come on, get up. Why are you? Come on, baby. Come on. Come on. Lord, she does not want to step over the... You don't want to step over the water? No, you... That's enough. Don't keep knocking on that. Wait a minute. Come here. I need you to stay over here. Come here.
You clean up.
I see.
You clean up, Mama.
Come here, baby.
You clean up.
Yes. That's what I need to get for you so you can clean up. So that one, this is the older twin. That one is the youngest one, but she is the leader, and that one follows the leader. This one can be very helpful. She's very overprotective of her sisters, very. So she can be very helpful when it comes to them, and sometimes she can be, I don't know, aggravating for them, you know. She doesn't like to take a nap. I do lay them down for a nap when they're at home on the weekend. I don't have a set schedule. It's just usually sometime in the afternoon, I just lay them down and they usually go to sleep. Because they're underweight, they are still on formula milk. So, but they can take regular milk. They could take regular milk. It's just that, the doctors still want them to continue to get those extra calories. Yeah, I'm still trying to work on getting her into preschool if I can. She did go to preschool last year, but it was only so many days a week and so many hours per day. So this year, I really need her to go to a full day, and right now they're all full, but they said that, by the time school start, they may have space, so, just in case they don't, I still have to have some type of care for her.